the butt.
And before each breach, each legionnaire looks at one another and says, "Fire in the hole." Every time. All 20 of them, fire in the hole, pass it down.
Hi, everybody. This is Jason.
This is Pete.
And this is the Lost Legions podcast. And today we're going to talk to you about, what are we going to talk to you about, Pete?
The breaches.
That's true.
The Legion breaches.
Legion
as opposed to the non-Legion breaches. Yeah. Yeah, breacher squads. Who'd have thought it?
Yeah, we're kind of going through, I think, and tackling the troops section, I think, first, and talking about how we feel about them, how to use them, and what to do with them. So basically, give us an overview, Pete. What exactly are the Legion Breachers?
So they are like the hard-hitting breaching forces, usually found in boarding actions, in your Zone Mortalis sort of environments, designed to force the breach where the enemy needs to be breached the most.
They're gonna hit.
That is the exact description in the book. No.
Is that what they tell them in the manual?
Yeah.
Or like, you need to go breach the hell out of whatever needs to be breached the most. Okay, good. Here's a melted bomb. Go breach that dreadnought in the butt.
And before each breach, each legionnaire looks at one another and says, "Fire in the hole." Every time. All 20 of them, fire in the hole, pass it down. Yeah, that's the breachers.
So breachers are they all carry boarding shields, which gives them a 5-up invulnerable save, which has changed. It's now 5-up invulnerable save in combat and for shooting. Last edition, I believe it was 4-up, which was great.
No. Last edition, it was 5-up in combat, but 6-up against shooting.
Oh, that's what it was.
But breach, I'll bring up the rules. But breachers have now gained the heavy subtype, haven't they? Which means they can no longer run. Should we talk a little bit how they're different to your tactical squads and why you might choose them over your tactical squads?
Yes. Well, most important thing, they're line, and so they can score. So yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, so they're a bit more expensive than your tactical squads, right? I'm not sure what the exact points difference is. I think 10 tacticals is 125, and you're getting 10 breaches here for 155. As Jace just pointed out, they come with a boarding shield, which is great. They also come with breacher charges, which I don't actually know too much about what they do now. I think they're only used against wrecking fortifications now, I think.
Yeah, they're not. Before they used to be amazing in combat. This is why you don't know, because no one uses them anymore because they don't do anything. Before, you'd throw them into combat and kill Terminators with their little AP2 blast, and now
that initiative order, wasn't it? It was like your sergeant's weapon of choice for a challenge. He's like,
it was ridiculous.
"Enemy sergeant, I challenge you with my Sharnable Saber." He's like, I will duel you with my breaching charge. Yeah.
Immediately. I remember. I've made that mistake so many times.
I think it's Mike. It's definitely Mike. Oh, if I've got his name wrong, I'm really sorry. It was at Adepticon. He taught me this lesson with my Ultramarine sergeant. He just accepted the challenge with my Empress Children's sergeant. He just accepted the challenge with his Ultramarine sergeant and taught me the way of the breaching charge. It was horrible. Yes, cheers, Mike. That one's stuck around. I'm pretty sure it's Mike. I hope I'm getting it right. Anyway, the nicest of man. The nicest of men.
Now in 2.0, he can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. What else makes them different?
Why would you want to take a breacher? Exactly. What makes them different? Why would you want to take a breacher over a regular tac squad?
So I think the tac squads are like the basic units. These fulfill a lot of the same jobs, but do go one level further, right? So as we've sort of mentioned, you gain the heavy rule, which hinders them in their ability to move across the battlefield. They can no longer run, but they do get to re-roll unsuccessful saves, armor saves against blast and template weapons, which is pretty cool. That gives them an invulnerable save as well, right? Which can be huge. They also can take a termite assault drill or a Land Raider Proteus as the dedicated transport. So if you're wanting to run lots of Land Raiders in your list, then you might want to consider using some of these guys as your compulsory troops, so you can unlock more Land Raiders quite easily. So they're quite tough. You know, they have tough vehicles
on a
to choose
troop
from.
slot. Like that's what. Sorry to cut you off. Like, but in a troop slot, you're getting Land Raiders with no right of war, right? Like, so that's really cool. you can really change up the way your army plays with that.
Yeah, exactly right. And like as we start going through the war gear here, a lot of things are the same. Like, you know, you've got your bolter, you've got your Nuncio Vox, your Legion, Vexilla, your Augury Scanner. We've talked about them at length in a previous episode on the tactical squad, so I'll link that one at the end of this video for those that want to watch that. But then you get some special weapons. So you're not just all bolter boys, right? Which is the cool thing. So you've got access to flamers and melter guns, very similarly to what the tactical support squads have access to in the Legion book. But you've got two unique weapons, the Graviton gun and the Las Cutter.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I've used the Las Cutter quite extensively now. And it's really, really, really effective against dreadnoughts and things like that. So that's great.
I also have a healthy respect for the Graviton gun because of the difficult terrain it puts down for a turn. If you run your squad through it, like if you roll any ones, you've automatically taken a wound, right? So it is with only invulnerable saves. So I've like run into situations where like the Graviton gun said nothing. I've run out to go charge somebody and lost a dude or two.
Yeah.
Like just from that. So like the Graviton gun, it also has haywire, so you can really take out vehicles. I think the downside with it though is it's not assault.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's heavy actually. Heavy blast 18, I think. So yeah, that's why I've preferred the Las Cutter, because they do a similar job. You know, the Graviton gun auto hits, but the Las Cutter strength 10, so you can double out some Gal Vorback, which has happened once or twice now, which is pretty cool. And the other cool thing about the unit is they can all take Volkite charges instead of their bolters. Now that becomes, I mean, that's a pretty good upgrade anyway. But that stacks with the fact that they can have a Land Raider with an assault ramp, right? So all of a sudden you've gone from your basic tac squad with 10 bolters coming out of a Rhino potentially to 10 Volkite guys shooting out of a Land Raider who also can then mop up whatever's left of that unit if they need to, right? Which has made a nice change.
I will say about these guys is I've always found them surprisingly tough. Like they're not as easy. A lot of troop units you're ready to like just kind of waltz through, and for some reason like breachers are always tougher than you think they're going to be.
Yeah.
All those invulnerable saves, like the sergeant like usually has artificer armor, and that is, you know, they can just be tough. So I mean, I think if you want a unit that's going to stick around, it's a unit to consider. I think the downside, though, is that like they are heavy, so they can't run around. So you're going to need something to either drive them around, or you're going to have to plan to have them sit there, right? Like they are not quick at all.
And they can't take a Rhino, right? So I've mentioned obviously that they can take a Land Raider. And a term I bet it's worth pointing out, they can't have a 35-point box on wheels to get them to where they need to be. So you have to invest quite heavily in their mobility if you want them to be mobile, which I think is quite a nice swing for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also their guns aren't, their best ranged weapon is the bolter, you know, so they're not a particularly sit back and shoot unit, right? Either.
Right.
So
I mean, they're like a 24-inch max range.
Yeah, they're designed to be going down through corridors and, you know, huge battle cruisers and whatnot, right, and clearing out and all that sort of stuff. So,
but like when you're in close with them and they have those 4 melta guns or like 4 graviton guns, right? Like it's they can actually be surprisingly deadly and like really shooty and tough.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've found that like, so I don't know what you usually or use it for your sergeants or what other people do, but I see a lot of times people put thunderhammers or power fists on them and make those sergeants like a really tough, like something tough they go up against. Yeah,
exactly. I actually think you're worth So I'll talk a little bit about how I've run them, and I guess it's probably a good idea to talk about them. I've run them as a 20-man squad and a Spartan, and it is a lot of points, but they are so tar pity by the time you add an apothecary in there. Whatever whatever elite unit is wanting to chomp through you, they've got to get past your 5+ invuln and probably your 5+ feel no pain. So all of a sudden that takes a bit of going through, right?
Yeah, I've run into that event like where I thought, oh, I'm going to blow through this squad, and I'm like 2 turns later, I'm like, God damn it, that took forever.
Yeah, exactly.
And not as many of my guys as I thought walk out the other side as well either.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're worth then adding in a console, right? Maybe adding in a champion or maybe a praetor or whatever it is you want. Now I've run mine with my warsmith, and he does the damage. The guys soak up the wounds, right? And that's kind of the way I've ran the unit.
Well, I think this is actually a good transition to one of the things I kind of wanted to bring up was, why don't we talk about what legions have kind of the most interesting breachers? And this is not Legion special unit breachers. We'll talk about that when we do legions. This is like just your legion rules and your weapons and how they interact. So let's talk about yours, the Iron Warriors, and what they bring to the table, because I think they're one of the good breacher legions.
Yeah, for sure. So as everyone probably knows by now, the Iron Warriors are really good against vehicles and dreads, right? They get +1 to wound against vehicles, dreads, and automata, which is great. And that's on all weapons, including close combat weapons. So that's your melter bombs, your crack grenades. All of your bolters can glance through front armor of rhinos, right? Your Volkites can hurt dreadnoughts a little bit more easily. Things like that makes a big difference. Where it becomes quite good with the Iron Warriors in particular is they have access to some graviton close combat weapons. So all of a sudden, this unit, that is filled with invulnerable saves, you can throw it into a dreadnought and let your characters mop it up with haywire close combat attacks real quickly. Because
the dreadnought's going to be able to challenge them out.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. And then again, I've played around a lot with the I can't remember what it's called now, but the Warlord trait, which gives you an additional shot on your unit for Iron Warriors, but you gain gets hot. So
Fury of Olympia, I think.
No, it's something else. That's their that's a right of war. But yeah, or right war rule. But what they get, I think it's Tyrant of the Decaphon or something like that. Anyway.
It gives the Warlord's unit
the Warlord unit, they get +1 shot.
And then Yeah.
So you go in two-shot graviton guns, getting hot on 1s and 2s, or whatever it is, because they can get hot on 1s and 2s, and you're like, if I miss, I'm going to fry myself. But if I hit, also, I'm wrecking what I'm shooting.
Combine this with Fury of Olympia, you could have a 20-man squad that's shooting 3 times with gets hot, and they're pinning. Right?
Yeah, you could do, right? There's a whole list of things that you can mess around with. Well, Fury of Olympia replaces Fury of the Legion. So it only applies on tactical squads.
Okay,
it only applies to tactical squads. But yeah.
Got it.
You can do lots of things. So yeah, the standout points on Iron Warriors, that Warlord trait can really boost those high strength, low AP shots you're getting from the melter guns, las cutters, or grav guns, which is quite cool. And the fact that they just wound dreadnoughts and vehicles more easily, and they've got a lot of anti-dreadnoughts and vehicle weapons in the breacher squad.
Okay.
So that's why I think they're good. What about?
Why don't we talk about the Dark Horse choice, which I think that we both talked about before this, that we think that might actually end up having really interesting breachers, which are Thousand Sons.
Yeah. You wouldn't really think about them. Your mind doesn't go to them initially, does it? Straight away.
No. We were brainstorming about who has interesting breachers, and this was one what we both agreed on. Yeah,
so there's a couple things really with them. The big one that you thought of straight away, Jay, was their they can, with one of their Psychana, they can boost the Cult Arcana rather. They can boost their invulnerable save by +1 to a max of 4 when within a certain threat range of an enemy unit. So your breachers can go to a 4+, right? 4++ save, which is huge on a troop squad. Christ. So that's a huge benefit. The other thing is you can boost their movement, like you can with all Thousand Sons units. So by an additional 3 inches again, which will make
huge for this squad.
Huge for a breacher that can't run, right? Yeah. So when you need to get them onto an objective or whatever it is, or get out of line of sight, or whatever the situation is, that's going to be quite a big boost. So yeah, I think they've got some good tools.
Feasibly run them with that without a transport, right? Like, because they could be running 10 inches. So And also, I think the cool thing is you could have, and you've told me this, right? You could have your apothecary in the squad could be a different cult arcana than your squad. And then they could choose at the beginning of the turn what they wanted to cast. They can't cast them both, but when you needed to run, you could run. And then when you wanted the extra invulnerable save, you could have that.
So I believe they can cast them both as well, which is interesting.
Oh, at the same time.
So you can have your sergeant doing one, an apothecary doing another, a tech marine doing something else. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they have to. I mean, I can't remember. I think it's all units must select the same one, or maybe I'm thinking of independent characters in particular. There's a way around it because because an apothecary. Ignore me, scratch that. I think it's independent characters only. So if you had like a champion in there, the champion could cast his own one because he is his own unit. He's just formed a new unit with the breaches in that scenario. But the apothecary tech marine is an upgrade to a unit, right?
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, so you got all these different little powers that you can mess around with, which is good. Christ, you could even, I mean, it's a bit generic. You could do it with any legion, I guess, but with a Psyker, which you're going to have more of with Thousand Suns naturally, you could give them precision hits and shots on 5s and 6s, right? So, precision hits, 5s and 6s with strength 10 las cutters, like, Christ.
That's not
sniping out something,
with meltaguns too, right? Like 4 meltaguns in there. And you're like, here we go, precision shots.
Yeah.
So you could be like ghetto headhunters.
Yeah, kind of. Breacher headhunters. Psychic breacher headhunters.
So I think Thousand Suns, again, are the dark horse.
Definitely.
And they have some interesting choices. And I think that because they can do so many different things, I think they're going to pop up a lot on our like interesting choices lists for different things. So we'll see. I don't know how good they are, but this is not who's the best. It's the most interesting choices.
Yeah.
But speaking of the best choice, Iron Hands.
Hands down.
Why are they the best choice? And why is it Iron Hands?
Well, I mean, it's a tough unit anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Will Henry's running them every now and again, there's a lot to be said about that. But yeah, breaches are tough. If you need to wound one worse than what you're rolling, so like a bolter's wounding on a 5 rather than a 4, that's then huge on a unit that's already super tough. So that hands down is a big bonus. But the fact that they can take graviton shredders as opposed to graviton guns, so they're losing the heavy aspect of a graviton gun. They're now getting this 2-shot graviton shredder they can move and shoot with. It's just crazy.
They also can put a cyber familiar on their sergeant and give him 1 extra invulnerable save.
Yeah.
So
you could do that.
Invulnerable save for the challenges. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're just tough, and like against vehicles or dreadnoughts, those graviton shredders are going to shred you.
Literally. Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to be any tougher against troops, but like, surprise, charge the Iron Hands.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do. You want to
surprise you got 15 Volkite chargers probably in the unit to deal with for the troops, so that's fine. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
And I mean, they'll probably love you charging them with that Overwatch. 15 Volkite
Yeah,
chargers,
exactly, right?
Forge Graviton Shredders, like charge into that.
What's the Iron Warrior's special unique reaction? The Iron Hands special unique reaction?
Win?
Yeah, shoot twice on Overwatch on close combat, isn't it?
Oh my god!
So yeah, here take 60 Volkite shots on Overwatch or whatever.
I mean, as
30, 60.
Once said to me when I was playing my Space Wolves, well, at least your stupid reaction's out of the way now.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that.
Space Wolves 1 is far too much. Cool. What other units did we say? You've got the list there. I haven't.
I think the last one was one that you pointed out, the Death Guard. And that's because they are relentless, right? They can move and fire. And what you can do is you can load up on those graviton guns and you can be moving around firing them. And that is pretty good. I mean, it's the fact that they can constantly be moving and shooting them. I mean, I'd say they're on the lower end. Them and Thousand Suns are kind of like the lower ends. I think Iron Hands and Iron Warriors are more the top end.
Yeah.
But all of them are interesting choices.
Yeah.
And any Legion will give you an interesting choice. These are just the ones on the top of our head that we picked out that we thought were the most interesting.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And are broken, Will.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. The Iron Hands are, I think, the strongest choice, and I think they're a good choice. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it. Do you have any other thoughts on Breachers you want to share, or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'd love to hear people's thoughts and comments on what other legions would have unique general breachers, right? Not legion specific unit ones, as Jay pointed out earlier, because I'm sure we're missing something. I wonder if the Blood Angels. Nah, probably not.
I mean, like 20
plus one the wound.
Breachers are going to be wounding on 3s. Like,
yeah, there's got to be some of a nice thing. We just can't think of the top of our heads now. But yeah, leave a comment and don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It'll go a long way, guys. So I think we're pretty much done here, are we?
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
That's it. Cheers, guys. Bye.